coming on the air with the all-out scramble tonight in Arizona with an explosive ruling banning nearly all abortions in the state. A law from the Civil War era now brought back by a court, putting millions of women at risk of losing abortion access. Doctors technically at risk of prison time. The questions tonight in that state and beyond, plus the big political fallout in this critical battleground just ahead. Plus, we're live in Michigan with a sentence making history. The parents of a school shooter headed to prison for their role in the deadly attack. The emotional reaction from the victims' families who say this is just the first step. Then, a case that captured the world's attention, now back in the spotlight. Why Amanda Knox may have to clear her name again in an Italian court. Plus, in tonight's original, why a disease that was pretty much wiped out of this country for good is now the most prevalent it's been for 7 decades. What's behind this surprising syphilis surge? And the numbers we're just getting in showing the women's basketball final, for the first time ever, beating the men's when it comes to rating. Why it's evidence star power matters a little bit later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and we start tonight with that bombshell abortion ruling in one of the most important battleground states in the country, with new fallout now on a decision that effectively bans abortion in Arizona. No exception for rape, no exception for incest, the only exception to save a mother's life. The ruling says that the state has to abide by a law from the year that Abraham Lincoln was reelected, 1864, before women had the right to vote, before Arizona was even a state. The Democratic governor, today, emotional.
I'm devastated by this decision, and I know that many Arizonans are as well.
So a couple big implications for this ruling, right? First, obviously, women's health. This is set to go into effect in 2 weeks. Many women would presumably have to travel out of state for abortion care. And for doctors, a whole lot of question marks, since this makes abortion a felony, punishable by as many as 5 years behind bars. Now, the Arizona Attorney General today is making clear she is not going to enforce this. Watch.
Let me be completely clear. As long as I am Attorney General of the state of Arizona, no woman or doctor will be prosecuted under this draconian law.
But there's still the other big piece of fallout here. Okay, the political consequence. Because, yes, while Arizona is now poised to join Texas, Alabama, Mississippi as states with the toughest anti-abortion laws in the country, unlike those other very red states, Arizona is very much a major battleground in the race for control of the Senate and the White House, with President Biden calling this court decision today a result of the extreme agenda, in his words, of Republican elected officials who are committed to ripping away women's freedom. You see his statement here. Still, already in Arizona tonight, some Republicans are now distancing themselves from this ruling, including controversial Senate candidate Kari Lake, who's up against Democrat Ruben Gallego in one of the most high-profile Senate races in the country. There's a lot to unpack tonight, so let's get to it with Laura Jarrett, who is joining us now. Let's talk about this in 2 buckets, right, just as we laid it out. Implications on women's health, the nuts and bolts, what this ruling does, and then the political fallout. Start with what this law actually will and won't do.
So we just got off the phone with a bunch of doctors in the state who are saying, look, we don't really know where this goes because the court has obviously taken us back to 1864 on the one hand, Hallie, but they also recognize that what they're doing is likely to prompt more legal challenges. And so they put their own decision on hold for at least the next couple days to allow those challenges to play out. So it's possible that this doesn't even go into effect for quite some time. In fact, it could be up to 2 months, but just because of the way the court structured its order. But let's play it out for a second that this actually goes forward and this becomes the law of the land. I think people at home might think, how is it that we could go back to 1864 in 2024? And the reason because is all about Roe versus Wade, right? That was the constitutional right. Supreme Court struck it down nearly 2 years ago. And as a result of that, everything went back to the states. And if there is no constitutional right to an abortion, then any state can restrict it at 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 15 weeks. They can do whatever they want, essentially, Hallie. And that's sort of why you see it revert back to these old laws that were on the books so long ago.
So part of this, too, you've laid out the health implications here. There are political implications. We know that the White House is saying that the vice president will travel to Arizona now later on in the week. It'll be her second trip in just a matter of weeks to that state to talk about this issue, one that she's really made her own. We also know that there are abortion rights groups working all over the country, including in Arizona, where they're trying to get it on the ballot. They're trying to give voters a chance to decide what the state's law should be. It is hard to overstate how important Democrats think this issue is going to be come November, particularly in a state It's real purple and real consequential.
Democrats see it as a huge way to have voter turnout on an issue that they think works in their favor among voters who might otherwise be a little apathetic to the environment. Hallie, I think they see this as a winning issue for them. And it's interesting to think about sort of the snapback, right? You see all these court decisions popping up around the country at the state level, only to have state ballot initiatives, perhaps, if they pass, undo all of them. But we should point out these state ballot initiatives that we're seeing in Arizona, it looks like it's going to go on the ballot there. Florida, we saw that last week, and other places around the country. In those cases, voters would be essentially undoing what the court did by constitutional amendment. It's not easy to have a constitutional amendment. Anytime you need a supermajority, usually, which means more than just the majority of people. Sometimes you need almost 60% of the vote. So it will be interesting to see how this fuels turnout and whether once people actually go to the polls, sort of what they do to make their voice heard on this issue. And I think it speaks to why you see so many people on Capitol Hill in Washington being so careful, because they don't want to be perceived as being out of step with what the voters want.
Laura Jarrett, thank you very much for that. Lots to follow. Appreciate it.
Yep.
It's taken out of the historic sentencing of the first parents ever to go to prison because of the mass shooting their child carried out in a case that essentially put parenting on trial. And the emotional plea tonight from victims' families who say this does not and cannot end here. Right here on the screen, you're seeing James and Jennifer Crumbley being let out of the courtroom in just the last couple of hours after learning they will spend up to 15 years behind bars after a conviction on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. They're accused of not doing enough to stop their son from killing 4 teenagers and hurting 7 other people at Oxford High School in Michigan. Their son's already in prison for life without parole. With the judge here in the parents' case acknowledging she had to go beyond the guidelines with this sentence because of the unprecedented territory they're all in. The Crumbleys today apologizing to the parents whose kids were killed, but defending their own parenting.
We were good parents. We were the average family. We weren't perfect, but we loved our son and each other tremendously. If there's anything the general public can take away from this, is that this could happen to you too.
The families of the 4 victims, Madison Baldwin, Tate Meir, Hannah St. Juliana, Justin Schilling. You see their faces here, all of their families, very emotional, obviously, and really slamming the Crumbleys for what they say is a lack of remorse.
You say you wouldn't do anything different. Well, that really says on what type of parents you are.
You have failed your son, and you have failed us all.
And I live every day with pain, anger, heartache, regret, anxiety, stress, you name it.
To me, that makes the maximum sentence being 15 years too short. Hannah didn't even have 15 years to live.
Shaquille Brewster is covering this for us in Pontiac, Michigan. And let's pick up on that question of remorse here that you heard some of those family members talking about. It was really important with some of the families saying they didn't even want the max sentence until they saw how the Crumbleys acted during trial.
Yeah, Hallie, that lack of remorse was a key factor for the prosecution. It was a key factor for the judge as she was announcing her sentence, and it was clearly a key factor for the families of the 4 victims who pointed to it repeatedly. And what they were talking about really goes to the timeline and what happened in the hours and days before that shooting in 2021. It was that Friday before that James Crumbley bought his son the weapon that was ultimately used. The day after, Jennifer Crumbley took her son to the shooting range. And then that Monday and Tuesday, the first days back to class, you saw Ethan Crumbley was caught searching online for ammunition. The next day, his parents were told about violent depictions, literally pictures of Ethan shooting people that he put on his homework papers. They were told about that, and they did not act. And during the trial, we heard Jennifer Crumbley essentially say and testify that there was not much that she would have done differently. That clearly struck the parents the wrong way. And I want you to listen to what we heard from one of the parents of one of the victims during the victim impact statements today.
The remorse that they were showing has nothing to do with taking accountability for their actions. I'm sure they're sad their son is in jail. I'm sure they're sad that they're in jail. That's not what's important.
That was after the sentencing, but you heard him mention that in open court directly to James and Jennifer Crumbley. Jennifer Crumbley, during her statement, did acknowledge that her testimony rubbed people the wrong way and tried to explain it by essentially saying she said she couldn't foresee the actions that her son were going to take, but that clearly did not have a strong impact on the judge who ultimately, as you mentioned, sentenced them to 10 to 15 years in prison.
You talk about the judge here. Let me talk about the prosecutors and how they're reacting. Let me play a bit of that.
Most parents don't need a message like that. Most parents don't need to have a message sending to, that don't buy your son who's exhibiting signs of distress a 9mm deadly weapon and make it accessible.
So help us understand this accountability factor here, because the families of these victims say they want this to be really just the beginning.
Yeah, and they're making it clear that they're not done yet. They want legal changes. They're going to be talking to lawmakers, trying to get those changes. For one, they want some legal protections and immunity for school officials and for schools to go away, and they want a shift in that law. They also want mandatory investigations after these kind of shootings. Listen to a little bit of what we heard from those family members.
This is the low-hanging fruit. Now it's time to turn our focus to Oxford schools who played a role in this tragedy. Many don't know that our government has not investigated this murder.
So they believe they have more work to do. This is essentially the third instance where we've seen them in court. They've had to have a part and played a part in Ethan's trial, the shooter, 15-year-old who is now behind bars serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. And remember, James and Jennifer Crumbley had two separate trials. They're saying, the families of those four victims are saying they're not done yet. There's more work that they want to do to make sure that no other families feel the way that they're feeling now, Hallie.
Shaq Brewster live for us there at Michigan. Thank you. New warnings tonight, new urgent warnings about ISIS threats at home and overseas, where the big soccer championship in Europe is stepping up security for quarterfinal games in the UK, Spain, and France. In a statement, the Champions League says it's aware of alleged terror threats and that what they call appropriate security arrangements are in place for all of these matches. That's happening as back here at home, U.S. officials are sounding the alarm about so-called lone wolf extremists inspired by ISIS, potentially targeting big events in this country. Just tonight, we're learning the FBI has arrested an 18-year-old from Idaho for allegedly planning to kill people at a church in his hometown in the name of ISIS. Let's bring in Ryan Riley now with more. What else do we know about this teenager from Idaho?
So this is one of those cases that involves sort of an FBI sting. So there are multiple confidential human sources who are signed up with the FBI who are talking to this individual here and essentially offering him any support that he needs in furtherance of this plot. You know, the reason that this is a lot easier to charge individuals who are supporters of a foreign ideology is because there's different laws that are in place for individuals who are associated with designated foreign terrorist organizations versus just, you know, your run-of-the-mill sort of domestic organizations. So a material support charge is something that they can bring here. It makes it essentially easier to charge people in this scenario. This scenario involves a teen, just an 18-year-old who actually had contact with the FBI or FBI confidential human sources when he was 16. He was apparently formerly a white supremacist who said he drank the Kool-Aid of white supremacy at one point and then sort of has now wandered more recently into this more foreign terrorist ideology involved with ISIS. So, you know, clearly I think there are even in the document signs that he had some mental health issues here. This sort of links into the story you're talking about before. You know, it's very similar in terms of these teens who have these mental health issues. What are the steps that law enforcement can take to prevent this from happening in the future? This Idaho situation, what we're learning now about this teenager in Idaho, this is all coming out after that warning, right, about the potential for ISIS-inspired attacks. Yeah, and it's sort of a separate sort of issue. That is broadly, that's something that law enforcement is very concerned about, these potential for lone wolf attacks. But in this instance, you have somebody who, you know, appears to be, you know, accepting of these ideologies and isn't, you know, is someone basically who the FBI, it seems like, was maybe potentially targeting here. You know, in this case, you have someone with a flag, actually, that was paid for by the FBI. So these sting operations, the FBI launches, particularly against young Muslim teens, tend to gather a lot of scrutiny about whether or not what the tactics exactly were here and whether, this was something that could have been an off-ramp, some sort of way of eliminating the threat without necessarily just going straight to indictment and, for bringing this case to the end safely.
Ryan Riley, thank you very much for that update. Appreciate it. Tonight, in a new explosive court filing, prosecutors are painting Alec Baldwin as a man with absolutely no control of his own emotions on the set of Rust. You remember, of course, cinematographer Halle Hutchins was shot and killed after Baldwin was holding a prop gun that went off on the set of Rust. Now, prosecutors say Baldwin was not attentive during his firearm training, that his relentless rushing of the crew on the movie set routinely compromised safety, and that he was often screaming and cursing at himself and others for no real reason. Baldwin's trial on involuntary manslaughter is scheduled to start in July. He's pleaded not guilty. Now, NBC News has reached out for comment on this latest filing. We have not heard back. The film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter last month. She's expected to be sentenced next week. Elwin Lopez is covering this for us. What's interesting here, this was just this information, everything that we just talked about here, was in response to Baldwin's attorneys trying to get these charges dropped, but included some pretty intense language. Talk us through what has come out now in just the last, 8 hours or so.
Yeah, Hallie, that's right. Prosecutors are slamming Baldwin after his team tried to throw out the indictment against him. In that filing, they claimed that the actor has, quote, absolutely no control over his own emotions and absolutely no concern for how his conduct affects those around him, adding that, quote, it was this exact conduct that contributed to safety compromises on set. Now, remember that there's been a lot of back and forth between the state and the defense here. This one, just the latest, and it's been made public just a week before the sentencing of the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, who was found guilty, as you mentioned, of involuntary manslaughter last month. Gutierrez also mentioned in that filing where prosecutors claimed that the, quote, combination of our negligence and inexperience and Baldwin's complete lack of concern for the safety of those around him would prove deadly for Halle Hutchins. Hallie?
This is going to give us some insight, perhaps, on what we can expect in trial, yeah?
Yeah, so prosecutors here are alleging that Baldwin changed his story and provided misleading information. He says in one interview with law enforcement that the cinematographer who was killed, Halle Hutchins, was turned talking to someone when she was shot. And in another interview, he says that she was giving him instructions as to where to point the gun. That first interview was right after that fatal incident, and the other one was with OSHA a few months later. Also important to point out, Hallie, that in those filings, both parties raised issues with information shared with the media, including NBC News.
Elwin Lopez live for us there in L.A. Lots to follow over the course of the next few weeks on this one. Thank you. Let's take it down south, where they're bracing for some pretty scary spring weather with the possibility of tornadoes, big hail, maybe flooding for some 22 million people from Louisiana over to Texas. That's where you're seeing some of this hail overnight. Look at that dropping. In Atlanta, a flight that may have been hit by lightning earlier, according to airline officials, had to land with the pilots declaring an emergency. I want to bring in meteorologist Bill Cairns, who's joining us now. All right, where is this thing hitting and when, critically?
Yeah, so far so good, Hallie, but tomorrow is kind of the big day. Tomorrow is the day we expect possibly a tornado outbreak and maybe even a few strong tornadoes, the type that can actually, go through and ruin a town. So we'll deal with that tomorrow. Now we have 2 tornado watches. We've had no tornadoes today. Haven't actually had a lot of severe weather either. We've had thunderstorms, ton of rain. We got flash flooding issues. We'll show you that in a second. But this area of strong thunderstorms is right over Interstate 49, Shreveport southwards. And when you see it we call it bowing, when you look at the thunderstorm, it kind of looks like a bow right here. That's when you know you have very strong winds, and that's why we have this severe thunderstorm warning. They're saying the wind gusts could be 60 to 70 miles per hour. So that's just now crossing Interstate 49. That'll be heading up here towards Interstate 20 east of Shreveport in about a half hour from now. So for the rest of this evening, the area of concern is as these storms continue into Louisiana, new storms are going to be forming over the top of Waco and Austin, maybe Dallas and Fort Worth, but so far most of the storms have been south of that. And then during the early morning hours, we think Houston could get into some of the action. And we do have at least favorable conditions for maybe 1 or 2 strong tornadoes. That's these hatched lines here, so from College Station, Lufkin to Fort Polk. Hopefully not, but at least it's a possibility in this area. Tomorrow, though, is another upgrade higher. This means the confidence is there for strong thunderstorms that'll spin that could produce strong tornadoes. That's this red coloring in here, so that's a moderate risk. We only can go 1 category higher, which is called a high risk, and we only get a couple of those events each year, maybe like 2 or 3. And so we'll see if this gets upgraded tomorrow, but it's a very good chance that there will be some strong tornadoes in this vicinity of southern Mississippi near the Louisiana border. Obviously, we have to keep a with close eye on areas like Mobile and New Orleans, heading to Jackson. It looks like southern Alabama has the best chance of getting the strong storms tomorrow. Montgomery to Birmingham, more isolated storms. And I mentioned the flash flooding is already an issue. This huge area, including Shreveport, under flash flood warnings. Most spots 2 to 3 inches of rain. And the flash flood watches now continue all the way to Panama City. So this area is going to get drenched round after round of thunderstorm. And someone has a chance of getting up to 8 inches of rain. So, you know, tornadoes always get the headlines. You see them on TV. They look incredible. The damage is just, you can't believe what they did. But flooding kills more people every year, flash flooding, than tornadoes do. So we have to remember that flash flooding doesn't get the headlines, but can be very dangerous throughout this region. And as we head towards the evening and the rest of the day today and tomorrow, this area in central Alabama, Hallie, this is under a moderate risk of flash flooding too. So we'll watch it all tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get through it unscathed, but there will be dangerous storms.
Well, you sound like you have a busy 24 hours ahead of you, Bill. Thank you. I'm sure we'll see you back throughout the course of the day. Thanks. To the investigation now tonight by the FAA after some new claims from a Boeing whistleblower who says he's got some quality concerns about a couple of Dreamliner models that could be catastrophic. This whistleblower, he's an engineer, says he found problems in the production of the company's 787 and 777 aircraft, and that instead of listening to his warnings, he alleges Boeing retaliated against him. Now, the FAA says voluntary reporting without fear of reprisal is a critical component in aviation safety. Boeing, for its part, says there's nothing wrong with the structure of these planes, saying they're fully confident, in their words, in the Dreamliner. Leslie Josephs is joining us now. Okay, walk us through these whistleblower claims. What specifically are they, and where does this go from here?
Hi, Hallie. Nice to talk to you. So what we're hearing from the whistleblower is that Boeing, this whistleblower is alleging that Boeing did not address properly small gaps that are not even visible to the eye in the body of the plane, the fuselage. Boeing has had issues with their 787s with quality problems for years, built out of Charleston. The planes were pretty much deliveries were halted for the better part of 2 years through 2022 from pretty early in the pandemic. And Boeing has put in certain things like shims, and they've had other methods to kind of close those gaps. And this whistleblower is alleging that over time, that there could be a risk to safety of flight. Boeing is denying these claims, calling them inaccurate. The FAA, is investigating them. They've already had an interview with this whistleblower who is going to be testifying in front of a Senate committee next week. And this is coming at a time, and this is why it's getting a lot of attention that maybe more than it normally would, is that Boeing is under an immense amount of scrutiny over the 737 MAX, a different plane. That's its bestseller after that door plug blew out of the Alaska Airlines plane earlier this year. Yeah. So there are a lot of questions about quality, but Boeing is so far saying that these claims are inaccurate.
There's also the business perspective, obviously, too, because Boeing today is also saying it delivered only about 29 airplanes last month, less than half of what they delivered in March of last year, right? I mean, it's clearly a slowdown.
Yeah, so Boeing is facing a whole bunch of quality issues, and to get a handle on that, essentially they're having to slow down their production lines, which is not what their big airline customers, Southwest, United Airlines, want to hear. Summer's coming up; they want those planes. Some of them have slowed down or paused hiring altogether, United putting pilots out on unpaid leave, if voluntary unpaid leave, I should say. And the FAA has said, Boeing, you cannot increase your production of the 737 MAX until we're satisfied. And we're going to hear more from Boeing later this month when they report on the 24th.
Lots of eyeballs on that. Leslie Josephs, thank you very much. Overseas now, a new opportunity for Amanda Knox. Remember her? To try to clear her image once and for all in a new slander trial set to start tomorrow in Italy. I know you remember this. This was a case that had people all over the world talking. The stunning story of this young American at the time and her Italian boyfriend, thought to have violently murdered Knox's 21-year-old roommate during what prosecutors said was a satanic sex game gone wrong. Even though Knox and her then-boyfriend were acquitted, there's still been some speculation that hasn't necessarily stopped. And that's why this new trial, this new slander trial, is such a big deal. Here's Josh Letterman.
When you hear the name Amanda Knox, you probably recall the salacious details of the Italian murder case that became a years-long global tabloid extravaganza. The captivating headlines about a violent sex game gone wrong with Knox's then-boyfriend and 21-year-old British roommate. Her supposedly strange and lackadaisical behavior after the murder. The nickname, Foxy Knoxy, thrust upon her by the media that painted her as a sex-crazed, twisted seducer and swarmed over every twist and turn. For Amanda Knox, that's a problem. It's been more than 8 years since Italy's highest court overturned her murder conviction, essentially clearing her after she spent 4 years in prison. But most people don't remember that part as vividly.
I'm sure people will still hold it against me because they don't want to understand what happened, and they don't want to accept that an innocent person could be gaslit and coerced into what I went through.
Now Amanda Knox is facing another trial and hoping this one will clear her name for good.
Amanda Knox probably realizes that even if she's completely exonerated by all Italian courts, public perception of her, among many, will still be that she is a killer who got away.
The focus of this trial, slander. During the murder investigation, Knox had pointed the finger in a written statement at a Congolese bar owner who was jailed for 2 weeks but ultimately cleared. Prosecutors say that was slander. An earlier slander conviction against Knox was thrown out last year, but Italy's top court has ordered a new trial. Knox has said she wrote that statement under pressure after hour upon hour of interrogation.
Ordinarily in the States, giving investigators a lead into who you actually thought committed the crime is hardly slander. It's usually just helping the police.
This case, the latest layer of a true crime drama that's unfolded over the course of more than 16 years. Meredith Kircher was found dead in a pool of blood in the apartment she and Knox shared in November 2007. Another man from the Ivory Coast was convicted in 2008 and put in prison. But Knox and her boyfriend were tried separately and also convicted for Kircher's murder in 2009. Even after that conviction was thrown out in 2015, the publicity circus didn't stop. Knox became the subject of a series of documentaries, movies, and now a limited series on Hulu, produced by Knox herself. Knox is now 36, a mother of 2 young kids, and an advocate for criminal justice reform. On social media, Knox calling her new trial a good thing and a chance to prove her innocence once and for all.
Josh is joining us now. So on that note, Josh, we know that Knox isn't planning to be in court tomorrow, but she is going to testify at some point, right?
Yeah, that's right. So this all kicks off tomorrow in Florence, Hallie, and it's expected to be behind closed doors. And while her lawyer said that she's not expected in court tomorrow, Amanda Knox said on her podcast she does expect to testify during the course of this trial. And this entire case, Hallie, has one piece of evidence in it. The only evidence in this case is that 4-page statement that she gave while she says she was in the middle of some 53 hours of interrogation, obviously over multiple days. She says that was not the kind of conditions that she could be expected to be able to testify reliably. In fact, her previous conviction on these slander charges was objected to and thrown out after a European human rights court said that her human rights had been violated because she had been denied access to a lawyer and that kind of a thing. But Amanda Knox hoping that this is going to make the difference for her, because she says that these slander allegations against her have been a key reason that many people in Italy and frankly even in the U.S., Hallie, doubt her innocence. Slander, unlike in the U.S. where it's a civil thing, you can sue somebody for money. In Italy, it is actually a criminal offense. But Amanda Knox hoping that she will be cleared of this allegation and it will finally put this entire legal and publicity scandal behind her once and for all. Hallie?
Josh Letterman live for us with more on that, I'm sure, to come in the days ahead. Thanks, Josh. When we come back, an NBC News exclusive, why the country's running out of the people who basically help our democracy function, and why one man wants millions from women he says targeted him in a Facebook group set up to catch cheaters. The huge settlement for victims of that East Palestine train disaster, why Norfolk Southern is set to pay hundreds of millions of dollars. But first, to an NBC News exclusive, finding the people who work at the polls when you go to vote, the election workers who keep the wheels on the tracks for our democracy, they are walking off the job at record rates. Partly it's because of threats, right? Think about fallout from 2020 and what we heard after January 6th, when election workers, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, publicly described the onslaught they faced, the fear they felt for their safety because of former President Trump's election fraud lies.
I don't want to go anywhere. I second guess everything that I do. It's affecting my life in a major way, in every way. all because of lies.
I've lost my name and I've lost my reputation. I've lost my sense of security.
But new data, first released to NBC News, shows that the problem goes beyond threats as elections offices try to put thousands of new officials in place ahead of November this year. Our Jane Tim, who's behind this exclusive, is joining us now. Okay, Jane, so what is it, right? If it's not just the threats, what else is involved here that's creating these election workers to feel like they can't keep working?
Yeah, Hallie, we've been talking about what election denialism might do to election workers for years. And for the first time, we finally have data that tells us what's going on. And what we're seeing is that in larger jurisdictions, which you remember were definitely some of the biggest targets of President Donald Trump and his allies, places like Detroit and Atlanta and Phoenix, that those are the jurisdictions where you're starting to see enormous turnover. Between 2018 and 2022, 46% of large jurisdictions, and let's be clear, 80% of Americans live in what's large jurisdictions, had election official turnover. That's huge. These are the most complex elections they're running. But what we also learned in the data, and I think we have some numbers we can put on the screen, we see that election official turnover actually started before Donald Trump was a candidate, before he started talking about fraud. So there's some long-term systemic problems. You can see that it was rising gradually since 2004. There's definitely some issues that, including funding, staffing for election officials, that are at play here. This is not a one problem issue.
What about the elections workers coming in, right? I wonder what others are hearing from them, these folks who are now stepping into these important jobs, right? Often like under the radar jobs ahead of this very critical election in November after everything that we've seen over the last few years related to threats and harassment.
Yeah, you know, this issue plays heavily, election denialism, on election officials who are leaving the job as well as coming in. I think we have some sound from an official who left in December 2020 and just said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Why don't we play that?
It does break my heart a little bit because there's some really super great people across this country who put their heart and soul into what they do. And for them to walk out means that there's this huge gap of knowledge that maybe the next folks coming in don't even have information from or know who to contact or how to build those programs to continue to make the office successful.
But the officials who are coming in, I've talked to a lot of them, including Debney's successor in Charleston, South Carolina, and they're excited and passionate to do this work. They see this as service, and they say, you know what, we're not going in with blind. We know how bad this can be. We know how hard this job can be. But they say, if not me, then who? And believe this is part of their democratic duty. So there's definitely some reason to be optimistic when you see some of these new, fresh blood that's coming into these jobs, even if it is going to be tough for them to pull off a 2024 election.
Jane Tim, thank you very much for that reporting. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Norfolk Southern Railroad says it'll pay $600 million, more than $500 million to settle a huge class action lawsuit over what you're seeing here on screen. Remember that massive train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, spilling toxic chemicals across that community. A lot of health concerns at the time for people there. The company now says the money should go toward things like health care and fixing up people's property. Number 2, take a look at this huge explosion at a hydroelectric power plant, a deadly one. At least 3 people killed in Italy. It also hurt several other people in just the last couple of hours. Rescuers right now are searching for some still missing, local officials say. One local media outlet reports the explosion totally collapsed part of the underground plant, setting off a fire and flooding. Number 3, a new study says using Tylenol during pregnancy is not tied to kids' risks of things like ADHD and autism. Acetaminophen, is a pretty common pain reliever for folks during pregnancy. Some earlier studies had suggested perhaps a link between its use and kids ending up with developmental disorders. This new study now refutes that. Number 4, a court in L.A. now throwing out one man's defamation case against a woman who says he was a bad date. There's this private Facebook group called Are We Dating the Same Guy? You had women posting in that group that this guy was inappropriate on some of the apps. He is now suing 50 of these women for defamation and discrimination. We should note this is the first case to be thrown out, but TBD on what happens with the rest of them. Number 5, Mattel's launching a new, more collaborative version of Scrabble. It's called Scrabble Together. There's a second side of the board where players work together. It could be a little less competitive. Mattel says this is the biggest change they've ever made to the classic board game. Right now, it's only available in Europe, but TBD on whether it comes to the U.S. soon. Coming up, the son of one of America's richest men now going door to door with farmers, asking them to help the Ukrainian people. This is an Andrea Mitchell original coming up in just a second. Plus, why this goat is the goat of surviving under a bridge. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Northeast Bureau, the FBI now investigating an attempted bombing at a satanic temple in Salem, Massachusetts, after somebody allegedly threw something explosive at it. Officials say nobody was hurt because the temple was not actually open and this bomb didn't actually go off. Somebody who works there found it like 12 hours later. The mayor called the whole thing utterly reprehensible. Also from our Northeast Bureau, take a look at this brush fire right along the Jersey Turnpike in just the last hour. These pictures coming into us right in the middle of rush hour traffic. You see the firefighters there. They're trying to get it under control, but apparently it's spread pretty quickly. It's affected at least one car so far. We're watching this one. And out of our Midwest Bureau, pretty scary situation for this missing mountain goat who disappeared from a farm in Kansas City 2 months ago. And look where this little goat ended up, right under the bridge, right by the pillars. Somebody who spotted this goat managed to get a rope around its neck. Look at that. You know, keep it from falling, I guess. Firefighters eventually got the goat down, this like rocky rescue thing. Its name is Chug. Chug the goat, I'm happy to report, is now in stable condition. To some news coming out of Washington and well beyond, because new money that Ukraine desperately needs is on the line as members of Congress are now back in town after being out for a couple of weeks. The Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, says Ukraine will lose the war with Russia without this new money, but Ukraine might need more than military support. The war is hitting its land hard, crushing its farming industry. And now Howard Buffett, farmer, philanthropist, son of billionaire Warren Buffett, is going all around the country trying to get American farmers to support their counterparts in Ukraine. Here's Andrea Mitchell.
Yukon, Oklahoma, known for wheat fields and cattle ranches, is nearly 6,000 miles from the battlefields of Ukraine. But people in both places may have more in common than they think. Why are you doing this? Why are you traveling across the country talking to farmers about Ukraine?
Well, I'm talking to more than just farmers. I'm trying to talk to anybody who will listen, to be honest with you. What happens in Ukraine is going to have a huge impact on what happens to this country.
Ukraine once a top grain exporter, before the war known as the breadbasket of Europe. But Vladimir Putin's invasion has decimated production. Fields now littered with landmines, tractors replaced by tanks, exports plummeting, farmers' livelihoods destroyed, and populations from Egypt to South Africa scrambling for grain. We joined Illinois farmer and agricultural philanthropist Howard Buffett on the third stop of a tour across the U.S., bringing the plight of Ukraine's farmers to the American heartland. In partnership with the German Marshall Fund, a pro-democracy think tank, Buffett has one goal: to convince farmers here to support farmers over there, unable to till their battle-ravaged fields under constant bombardment from Russia.
If Ukraine falls to Russia, there's no other logical conclusion other than NATO ends up fighting Russia. At some point, you're going to wake up one day and we're going to be in it. And we're going to be in it. Our kids are going to be fighting. Our grandkids are going to be fighting. Somebody's going to be fighting.
Here at the stockyards in Oklahoma, the farmers and ranchers we talked to sympathize with the farmers in Ukraine, but it feels far away.
I get in my tractor, I don't worry about a bomb going off when I go to plow my field. I worry about how much fuel's in the tank, you know, what station's on the radio and what the markets are doing. I don't have to worry about my life. And those farmers, sure enough, have to worry about their life and whether they're going to go home that night to their family.
Buffett brought together Oklahoma locals, cattle ranchers, wheat farmers, and poultry producers with different perspectives.
From a U.S. wheat producer standpoint, that their cheap grain is putting us at an extreme disadvantage.
I think it's a huge issue for the world to hold the line here and protect the Ukrainians. And I say you can support them for the ethical reasons, the moral reasons, or the selfish reasons. You get to the same place.
All of us get caught up in our day-to-day life of, you know, paying the bills and keeping the farm running and all that, and don't think about those big things that happen on a global scale.
Buffett told me that in the first 2 years of the war, his foundation has spent $500 million supporting Ukrainian farmers, providing 70 combines, 84 tractors, planters and drills, and new grain storage facilities to replace what the Russians bombed or confiscated. They also stopped by a Ukrainian Orthodox church in Jones, Oklahoma, a parish first built by immigrants fleeing Russian oppression in the 1920s. I spoke to Father Stepan about what's at stake for his homeland. Is it difficult to explain that here in Oklahoma, where a war in Ukraine seems far away? He says even though it is far away, people in their hearts know that this war is very serious. What happens if Russia wins, if Vladimir Putin wins? He says, I think God will not allow this to happen. I believe even the United States and the European Union won't let this happen. Born into wealth, the son of the legendary billionaire Warren Buffett, Howard Buffett could remain on the sidelines, but doesn't. You could be living a very different life. Why do you do this?
My mom and dad gave me this opportunity. I would say it's an obligation, but it doesn't feel like an obligation. I mean, it's something that I love to do. I mean, it's a real privilege for me to be able to do it.
A son of privilege with roots on the American farm and a passion for helping farmers feed the hungry around the world.
Andrea is joining us now, fresh off that reporting trip to the Midwest. Just incredible to see some of these scenes from on the ground, Andrea.
And the devastation in Ukraine, is just so complete. 7 million acres are now lost to farming. And that grain used to go to Egypt, used to go to sub-Saharan Africa and all over Europe. Europe has managed to replace the grain. Africa has not. The poorer countries can't keep up.
What's also interesting is you heard him say in one of the pieces there, he said you could do it for the ethical reasons, the moral reasons, or the selfish reasons, which was kind of a funny way to think about it and applicable to more than just aid to farmers.
No, exactly. One of the selfish reasons is that he believes firmly, as the U.S. does, that Putin will not stop at Ukraine. If Ukraine goes under, he'll move on to other NATO countries who are much more vulnerable. And then we are in the war because we have to be. That's the NATO agreement. You know that better than anyone. So, either we keep our soldiers home and we don't have to fight this war, or we stop Putin now, help stop Putin now. And the other point is that most of the money comes back to the U.S., to our arms industries, to our defense industries. So it's helping jobs here in the U.S.
If you had to handicap it, Andrea, Ukraine funding, timeline, do we have any idea? Still a question mark.
It's now more complicated because of opposition to Israel's funding, which was part of that package. So who knows?
Andrea Mitchell, thank you so much for that great original piece of reporting for us tonight.
Thank you. It's exclusive to your show.
That's right. And more to come, of course, tomorrow on your show over on the other network, MSNBC. Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it. Coming up, more here on this show, including the surprising reason behind a new surge in syphilis. To tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight, it's the stunning surge in syphilis in this country. A sexually transmitted infection, once nearly eradicated, now back for reasons that might surprise you. Here's Yasmin Vasugian.
Right now, syphilis cases are surging in the United States at its highest level since the 1950s.
The people of America can eradicate the venereal diseases.
Rates of the sexually transmitted infection, once nearly eliminated in this country, skyrocketing for every age group, with experts pointing to a bunch of different reasons for this.
This is unfortunately a symptom of not investing in the American public health system in the way that we need it to be invested in.
One of them, substance abuse, that's on the rise and goes hand in hand with more risky sexual behavior. And another, maybe surprising one, the advent of PrEP, a highly effective drug for preventing HIV, introduced in 2012.
It's time to step up, prep up.
That hundreds of thousands of men who have sex with men take. A national annual survey shows condoms went from the top contraceptive tool for 75% of men in 2011 to just 47% in 2022.
It appears that there is this sort of false confidence that, well, I'm not going to get HIV, therefore I'm no longer going to use condoms.
And this comes as we're also seeing a culture shift around sex, as younger people also don't remember the 1980s and 90s and the fear surrounding AIDS and HIV at the height of the AIDS crisis. And with so many health crises, this syphilis epidemic is affecting Black and Latino men disproportionately. The latest data from the CDC shows cases up nearly 5 times as much for Black men than white men.
Communities of color have always and still are disproportionately affected by almost every disease.
The same patterns exist with HIV as well. And making things even harder for communities of color, just 11% of black people are on PrEP, 20% of Latinos, compared to 78% of white individuals. All told, suggesting prevention and treatment for HIV and syphilis are not reaching black and Latino people as well as for white people. And if left untreated, STIs like syphilis can lead to long-term issues, chronic pain, infertility, and can even spread to other parts of the body, like your heart and your brain. But with the right antibiotics, syphilis is treatable. But we should note, there's a shortage of these medications, like penicillin right now, due at least in part to the rising cases of syphilis. And while cases are soaring, funding to fight it is not. Just last year, Congress cut $400 million in funds for disease intervention.
There are studies that show for every dollar we put into prevention, we save a lot of money on the healthcare system side.
With right now more questions than answers on how the syphilis epidemic will get under control.
Yasmin is joining us now. Like a lot of health crises, right? This is not just one thing, as you've laid out in your piece. It's like a whole bunch of different things that kind of come together. That can sometimes make a solution harder to tease out.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of the problem, right? It's this confluence of all of these issues. You just heard $400 million in cuts, right? Lack of investments. Who is it affecting? Black and brown individuals mostly. That could be one of the reasons in which it's not being invested in. You talk about an increase in substance abuse. We have this use of PrEP, right? So people feel kind of immune to getting other diseases, and they're not necessarily practicing safe sex as much as they should. And then there's the culture, Hal, that I mentioned in my piece of sex right now, right? And they're not necessarily remembering the AIDS epidemic. So because of all of this happening at once, it's hard to figure out why it's happening.
Yasmin Vasugian, an eye-opening piece there. Thank you very much for bringing that reporting to us. When we come back, the new numbers just into us now on the men's March Madness final. The UConn Huskies may be the top dogs in college basketball, but not in all of the sport. We're going to explain in just a sec. So in just the last 90 minutes or so, we're getting the new ratings that show just how popular women's basketball is in this country right now. Because for the first time ever, the women's final beat the men's final in TV viewership. Look at this, nearly 15 million for the men. That's a lot, but not quite as many as the women had, nearly 19 million. Interestingly, though, those big numbers don't lead to big dollars for the women. Look at this. The men's TV deal is worth $873 million. The women's, $6.5 million. Sam Brock is joining us now. What's so interesting, right? The money piece of it is not catching up to where people actually are right now when it comes to specifically college hoops and specifically the women here.
I think to preface this conversation, nothing I'm about to tell you, Hallie, is going to make sense because it doesn't make any sense because there's no proportionality, right? As you suggested, $900 million. If you were to tell me, okay, the expectation was the men's ratings would be higher, the women's would probably be in the ballpark of it, so 70% of the TV ratings maybe, or rights, I should say, 80% for the women. They're getting 1%. $6.5 million is a fraction of what the men are earning. In what universe is that fair? So the NCAA president, Charlie Baker, was asked about this recently. And in fact, last week, our Jesse Kirsch asked him specifically about this, and he said, there is no peak on the women's game. We are certainly trying to invest in it right now, but they make these deals ahead of time. So, okay, they have a brand new deal on the table that was just signed that's now $65 million a year for the women in TV rights. Guess what? That's 10x from where it was. Okay. But still less than 10% of what the men are making. It's not fair. If this spotlight on women's sports and specifically Caitlin Clark's rise to stardom and the explosion of interest in women's basketball has shown us anything, it's that things still are not on a level playing field.
And the question is, right, moving forward now, was Caitlin Clark and her amazing, strong women athletic colleagues, across the NCAA, was this lightning in a bottle this year, right? Or does this set a new floor for women's basketball moving forward? Because the star power is undeniable here for her. This year, on the men's side, it felt like that was less of a thing.
What makes a star? That is the big question. And, you know, for Caitlin Clark, clearly she is what makes Steph Curry Steph Curry. I think time will tell once she graduates whether or not this was a flash in the pan, if she was driving the numbers, or if the sport itself is immensely popular. Now, I will say there's a much better fighting chance for the women than the men because of the age at which a lot of the players are competing. For the women, they're getting to their junior or senior year, like Caitlin Clark, like Aaliyah Edwards, you know, like Camila Cardoso, all the top players that are going to be drafted in the top 5. They're all generally seniors. On the men's side of things, we can flash the full screen on that. You'll see there's the women, right? Caitlin Clark, of course, going to go number 1. The projections are Cameron Brink, another senior, number 2. On the men's side of things, it's all international players that are 17, 18 years old because a lot of these guys have gone to play abroad. They do one and done. They're out after 1 year of college. The entire topography has changed of college basketball, and it's drained stars from the men's side. There's more on the women's side. We'll see if the momentum carries through, though, to 2024.
Let's
25.
be real. 25, like 24, like 23, the year of the woman. That's my prediction, Sam. Mark it, write it down.
I like that.
Well, roll the tape, babe. All right, Sam Brock, thank you so much. Fascinating conversation.
Alec.
Appreciate it. That's a wrap for this hour. More coverage picks up right now. We are coming on the air with the all-out scramble tonight in Arizona with an explosive ruling banning nearly all abortions in that state. A law from the Civil War era brought back by a court, putting millions of women at risk of losing abortion access. Doctors, technically at risk of prison time. The questions tonight in Arizona and beyond, plus the big political fallout in this key swing state just ahead. Plus, we're live in Michigan with a sentence that's making history. The parents of a school shooter now headed to prison for their role in the deadly attack. The emotional reaction from victims' families who argue this is only the first step. Then the damning new court filing accusing Alec Baldwin of having absolutely, I'm quoting here, no control of his own emotions. How all of it's setting the stage for his upcoming manslaughter trial. Plus, the new details from a Boeing whistleblower tonight saying he found problems with how the company made 2 planes. More on how Boeing is responding, their denials. Plus, an NBC News exclusive. Why the country's running out of the people who essentially help our democracy function. That's later on in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and we start tonight with that bombshell abortion ruling in one of the most important battleground states in the country, with new fallout now on a decision that effectively bans abortion in Arizona. No exception for rape, no exception for incest. The only exception to save a mother's life. This ruling says the state has to abide by a law from the year that Abraham Lincoln was reelected, 1864, before women had the right to vote, before Arizona was even a state. The Democratic governor there, today, furious.
I'm devastated by this decision, and I know that many Arizonans are as well.
So 2 big implications for this ruling. Let's start with the first, obviously women's health. This is set to go into effect in 2 weeks. More on the timeline in a second, but many women would presumably have to travel out of state for abortion care. And for doctors, question marks, since this makes abortion a felony, punishable by as many as 5 years in prison. Now, the Arizona Attorney General today is making clear she is not going to enforce this. Watch.
Let me be completely clear. As long as I am Attorney General of the state of Arizona, no woman or doctor will be prosecuted under this draconian law.
But there's still the other big piece of fallout here, the political consequence. Because, yeah, while Arizona is now poised to join Texas, Alabama, Mississippi as states with some of the toughest anti-abortion laws in the country, unlike those other states, very red politically states, Arizona is not. It is very much a battleground in the race for control of the Senate and the White House, with President Biden today saying that this is a result, you see his statement here, of the extreme agenda of Republicans committed to ripping away women's freedom, in his words. On the other side of the aisle, the Republican presumptive nominee, former President Trump, has his campaign secretary in a statement saying that President Trump could not have been more clear. These are decisions for people of each state to make. Already in Arizona, some other Republicans are distancing themselves from this law, including controversial Senate candidate Carrie Lake, who's up against Democrat Ruben Gallego, one of the most high-profile Senate races in the country. Dasha Burns is joining us now. So, Dasha, let's take it in sort of those 2 buckets, if you will, the health impact and the political impact. Talk about the health impact with this law may be set to go into effect in 14 days. What's the timeline and the reaction in Arizona tonight?
Well, look, Hallie, we've seen this pattern over and over again in states where there is just a confusing network layers of laws. You've got this going into effect at the same time as the AG says she's not going to enforce it. And you've got a ballot initiative, which I know we'll talk about in a moment, in November that could change everything. What that does, though, is put clinics, providers, and patients in this very confusing purgatory, a scary purgatory for anyone who is pregnant or might be seeking this type of care. Take a listen to what our embed Alex Tabbitt heard from one person he talked to. Listen.
I'm devastated. I didn't think that they would do this. I really didn't. My niece just told me yesterday that she's pregnant and she's happy about it. She wants to have the baby. It's due in November. And I'm just so afraid for her that she won't be able to get the kind of care that she needs.
Back in 2022, Hallie, right after the fall of Roe v. Wade, some clinics in Arizona paused treatment back then. And it's not so easy to stop. You can imagine what that does to a clinic. You can imagine what that does to patients. And that's the limbo that folks are going to be in for the coming months.
So talk about the political fallout piece of it as well, because, you know, there's been this push all over the country in some of these states to try to get abortion on the ballot, to let voters decide what they want. In Arizona in particular, there's one group that says they do have enough signatures for a ballot measure here. And we have this really important Senate race. Democrats have long thought, really ever since the midterms, after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, when they were swept to more of a victory than they thought, that abortion rights, the issue of abortion access, could be extremely motivating for voters come the fall.
Yeah, and this is a critical swing state. It is a purple state, and there are a lot of folks in the middle in Arizona, as I'm sure any of our reporters who have been out there talking to voters will tell you. And this is something that absolutely can give a boost to the Democrats, that's what they're hoping for. Let's not forget, we were just talking yesterday, Hallie, about former President Trump's statement saying it should be left up to the states. Well, a Biden spokesperson is already tweeting, this is what leaving it up to the states looks like. And now you see Republican politicians trying to walk this fine line, trying to push back here. Let me show you some of the statements that we've seen from Republican politicians in reaction to this statement. You've got Carrie Lake saying she wholeheartedly agrees with President Trump and that she opposes today's ruling. You've got former Senate candidate Ruben Gallego saying this decision rips away the rights for women to make their own health care decisions. You've got Arizona Representative saying, I'm a strong supporter of empowering women to make their own health care choices. An anti-abortion stance is simply not a winning stance, according to the pattern that we've been seeing time and time again. And this certainly has Republican politicians in particular on the back foot here, Hallie.
Yeah, playing some defense here. Dasha Burns, thank you very much. More to come on this story, I know, in the days to come. Appreciate it. So the historic sentencing now of the first parents ever to go to prison because of the mass shooting their child carried out in a case that essentially put parenting on trial. And the emotional plea from victims' families who say this does not and cannot end here. Look at this. This is James and Jennifer Crumbley. You see them on screen, both of them in that split screen, being led out of the courtroom in just the last couple hours after learning they will spend 15 years, as many as 15 years behind bars on a conviction of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter each. They're accused of not doing enough to stop their son from killing 4 teenagers and hurting 7 others at Oxford High School in Michigan. You see the aftermath there. Their son's already in prison for life without parole. The judge today acknowledging she had to go beyond the guidelines with this sentence because of the unprecedented territory they're all in. The Crumbleys apologizing to the parents whose children were killed, but defending their own parenting.
We were good parents. We were the average family. We weren't perfect, but we loved our son and each other tremendously. If there's anything the general public can take away from this, is that this could happen to you too.
The 4 victims, you see them here, Madison Baldwin, Tate Meir, Hannah St. Juliana, Justin Schilling. Their families today, all emotional, obviously, all slamming the Crumbleys for what they say is a lack of remorse.
You say you wouldn't do anything different. Well, that really says on what type of parents you are.
You have failed your son, and you have failed us all.
And I live every day with pain, anger, heartache, regret, anxiety, stress, you name it.
To me, that makes the maximum sentence being 15 years too short. Hannah didn't even have 15 years to live.
I want to bring in Shaquille Brewster, who's live for us in Pontiac, Michigan. And Shaq, one parent called the Crumbleys, I'm quoting here, low-hanging fruit because they want more from the school, from the state, et cetera.
That's exactly right, Hallie. And specifically, they want more from state lawmakers. They want to see changes in the law. Specifically, they want a law that changes the government immunity that exists here in Michigan to allow schools and school officials to be sued civilly. They want a law that mandates investigations after instances of mass shootings. And they also want more investigations. They were disappointed in an investigation that was released just last year that didn't compel some school officials to participate in that investigation. They want to see a new investigation with some subpoena power so they can compel witnesses to participate in that full review. It's a lot of big asks that family members are asking for, but when you listen to the tone, specifically when you listen to the mom of Madison Baldwin, you hear that they're pretty determined in their demands. Listen here.
Accountability for the school, absolutely. And we're not for families to back down.
We've seen these family members appear not just at today's sentencing, but we saw them appear at James Crumbley's trial. We've seen them throughout Jennifer Crumbley's trial and also Ethan Crumbley throughout some of those court proceedings. These are family members who are incredibly involved, and there's no sign, Hallie, that that's about to end.
We've talked about how unprecedented this is, right? This idea that it's parenting on trial here after this mass shooting at a school. Prosecutors are saying, hey, they're not actually sure if they're setting some kind of precedent here. They are acknowledging this could save lives. Help us understand that.
Yeah, the prosecutor is essentially saying that these facts in this case are so egregious that she's not sure that this is actually setting some precedent. And that runs counter to what you heard from Jennifer Crumbley today in court, where she essentially said this is a warning to other parents that you could be in her shoes. I want you to listen to a little bit more of the prosecutor, because she not only says that she's not sure that it sets precedent, but she celebrates the awareness that this case brings about and the potential that it saves more lives. Listen to a little bit more from what we heard from her after the sentencing.
Most parents don't need a message like that. Most parents don't need to have a message sending that don't buy your son who's exhibiting signs of distress a 9mm deadly weapon and make it accessible.
And let's just pull back a little bit, Hallie, because I was here in 2021 when those charges were first announced and it turned into a manhunt for these parents. The reason why they were charged and why they were convicted is because prosecutors said they were the only two individuals who knew Ethan Crumbley had behavioral issues, who knew that he had made depictions of killing people, and who also knew that he had access to the firearm that they bought for him. And now you have two juries and a judge through her sentence today agreeing with the prosecution and how they laid out this case.
Shaquille Brewster, Shaq Live for us there in Michigan. Thank you very much. New warnings tonight now about ISIS threats at home and overseas, where the big soccer championship in Europe is stepping up security for quarterfinal games in the UK, Spain, and France. In a statement, the Champions League says it's aware of alleged terror threats and that what they call appropriate security arrangements are in place for all the matches. That's happening as back here at home. U.S. officials are sounding the alarm about so-called lone wolf extremists inspired by ISIS targeting big events in the U.S. Just tonight, we're learning the FBI has arrested an 18-year-old from Idaho for allegedly planning to kill people at a church in his hometown in the name of ISIS. Here's Ryan Riley with more. What else do we know about this teenager from Idaho?
So this is one of those cases that involves sort of an FBI sting. So there are multiple confidential human sources who are signed up with the FBI who are talking to this individual here and essentially offering him any support that he needs in furtherance of this plot. You know, the reason that this is a lot easier to charge individuals who are supporters of a foreign ideology is because there's different laws that are in place for individuals who are associated with designated foreign terrorist organizations versus just, you know, your run-of-the-mill sort of domestic organizations. So a material support charge is something that they can bring here. It makes it essentially easier to charge people in this scenario. This scenario involves a teen, just an 18-year-old who actually had contact with the FBI or FBI confidential human sources when he was 16. He was apparently formerly a white supremacist who said he drank the Kool-Aid of white supremacy at one point, and then sort of has now wandered more recently into this more foreign terrorist ideology involved with ISIS. So, clearly I think there are even in the document signs that he had some mental health issues here. This sort of links into the story you're talking about before. It's very similar in terms of these teens who have these mental health issues. What are the steps that law enforcement can take to prevent this from happening in the future?
This Idaho situation, what we're learning now about this teenager in Idaho, this is all coming out after that warning, right, about the potential for ISIS-inspired attacks.
Yeah, and it's sort of a separate sort of issue. That is broadly, that's something that law enforcement is very concerned about, these potential for lone wolf attacks. But in this instance, you have somebody who, appears to be, accepting of these ideologies and isn't, is someone basically who the FBI, it seems like, was maybe potentially targeting here. In this case, you have someone with a flag, actually, that was paid for by the FBI. So these sting operations the FBI launches, particularly against young Muslim teens, tend to gather a lot of scrutiny about whether or not what the tactics exactly were here and whether, this was something that could have been an off-ramp, some sort of way of eliminating the threat without necessarily just going straight to indictment and, for bringing this case to the end safely.
Ryan Riley, thank you very much for that update. Appreciate it. Tonight, in an explosive new court filing, prosecutors are painting Alec Baldwin as a man with absolutely no control, their words, no control of his own emotions on the set of Rust. You remember, cinematographer Halyna Hutchins was shot and killed on set, with Baldwin holding what was thought to be a prop gun on set. Now, prosecutors say Baldwin was not attentive. He was inattentive during firearms training, that his relentless rushing of the crew on the movie set routinely compromised safety, and that he was frequently screaming and cursing at himself and others for no real reason. Baldwin's trial on involuntary manslaughter is set to start this summer. He's pleaded not guilty. NBC News has reached out to his reps for comment on this latest ruling. We have not heard back. By the way, the film's armorer was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter last month. She's expected to be sentenced next week. Let's bring in Elwin Lopez now with more. What's interesting here, this was just this information, everything that we just talked about here, was in response to Baldwin's attorneys trying to get these charges dropped, but included some pretty intense language. Talk us through what has come out now in just the last, 8 hours or so.
Yeah, Hallie, that's right. Prosecutors are slamming Baldwin after his team tried to throw out the indictment against him. In that filing, they claimed that the actor has, quote, absolutely no control over his own emotions and absolutely no concern for how his conduct affects those around him, adding that, quote, it was this exact conduct that contributed to safety compromises on set. Now, remember that there's been a lot of back and forth between the state and the defense here. This one, just the latest, and it's been made public just a week before the sentencing of the armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, who was found guilty, as you mentioned, of involuntary manslaughter last month. Gutierrez also mentioned in that filing where prosecutors claimed that the, quote, combination of her negligence and inexperience and Baldwin's complete lack of concern for the safety of those around him would prove deadly for Halyna Hutchins. Hallie?
This is going to give us some insight, perhaps, on what we can expect in trial, yeah?
Yeah, so prosecutors here are alleging that Baldwin changed his story and provided misleading information. He says in one interview with law enforcement that the cinematographer who was killed, Halyna Hutchins, was turned talking to someone when she was shot. And in another interview, he says that she was giving him instructions as to where to point the gun. That first interview was right after that fatal incident, and the other one was with OSHA a few months later. Also important to point out, Hallie, that in those filings, both parties raised issues with information shared with the media, including NBC News.
Elwin Lopez live for us there in L.A. Lots to follow over the course of the next few weeks on this one. Thank you. Tonight, the South bracing for some scary spring weather with the possibility of tornadoes, big hail, flooding even for some 22 million people from Louisiana to Texas. That's where you're seeing some of this hail overnight. And in Atlanta earlier today, a flight that may have been hit by lightning earlier, according to airline officials, forcing the Delta pilots to declare an emergency while landing. Meteorologist Bill Cairns is joining us now. So it sounds like the real critical moment maybe isn't tonight, but is stretching into tomorrow morning. Talk us through it.
Yeah, we should see storms continuing through the overnight and tomorrow morning, and then during tomorrow afternoon, during the peak heating of the day. We're concerned with our friends, especially southern Mississippi and in areas of Louisiana. But let's first show you where we're at now, because we still have a tornado watch for northern Louisiana. Shreveport's out of the worst of it, but this is just a nasty light. All these little white little dots you see here are lightning strikes, just a ton of lightning and a lot of heavy rain right in between Shreveport and heading towards Monroe. Then we also have a new thunderstorm watch in areas that includes Austin, Texas, up to Waco. And you notice this one little red dot here. We do have an active tornado warning for this location. It's kind of rural here in between Brady and Manson. We will watch this in the next half hour or so. There's a little hook echo on this. Usually that's where we have a tornado present, but it appears to be in a very rural area right now. So they said it is potentially could cause considerable damage. The severe thunderstorm warning and then this tornado warning. So the northern portion of this, they're calling for maybe 2-inch hail. That will do some damage. And then the possibility of that tornado. Also, here's Austin, just to the north of you. Golf ball size hail reported on Interstate 35 with this thunderstorm. So we're kind of hit and miss right now. There's nothing too organized or widespread, but the atmosphere is kind of ripe. So as we go throughout the night after the sun sets, this will continue in this region between Austin and central Louisiana. And if we do get any tornadoes out of this in this hatched area, that could even be a strong tornado, strong enough that it just doesn't knock a tree down or, damage your roof. It could actually take a roof off, take trees off the ground and throw them places too. So again, that's going to be East Texas. Tomorrow afternoon, that's when we think we're going to have a more widespread area of severe weather. That's why we have this bright red. There's only one category higher than this, and that's high risk, and that would be shown in white. We'll see if they upgrade any of this area tomorrow. But it's one of those, weather days that's dangerous for areas. Anyone going to school throughout this region, everybody has to know for the potential of strong tornadoes as you go throughout your day. Make sure you have your sources and you can get those updates as you need them. That includes New Orleans, Jackson, Mississippi, to Mobile, and all the way over to Pensacola and almost towards Panama City in the lower half here of Mississippi and Alabama. And on top of all of this, because we have one round of thunderstorms after another, flood watches are up for about 14 million people. And these are active flash flood warnings where there could be life-threatening flash flooding going on right now around the Shreveport area. And we do think by the time this is all said and done by Friday, someone in this region here in northern Louisiana through Mississippi could get up to 8 inches of rain, widespread 3 to 5 inches, and especially this area here in central Alabama tomorrow and later on tonight through tomorrow. That's what we'll worry about flash flooding. So, Hallie, hopefully we won't lose any lives. Hopefully we won't have any damage, but this is definitely a dangerous situation over the next 36 hours.
Bill Cairns, lots to watch for over the course of the next day or so. Thank you very much. To the investigation tonight now by the FAA after new claims from a Boeing whistleblower who says his quality concerns over a couple of Dreamliner models could be catastrophic. This whistleblower, he's an engineer, says he found problems in the production of the company's 787 and 777 aircraft, and that instead of listening to his warnings, Boeing, he claims, retaliated against him. The FAA says voluntary reporting without fear of reprisal is a critical component in aviation safety. As for Boeing, the company says there's nothing wrong with the structure of these planes and that they're fully confident, in their words, in the Dreamliner. Leslie Josephs is joining us now. Okay, walk us through these whistleblower claims. What specifically are they, and where does this go from here?
Hi, Hallie. Nice to talk to you. So what we're hearing from the whistleblower is that Boeing, this whistleblower is alleging that Boeing did not address properly small gaps that are not even visible to the eye in the body of the plane, the fuselage. Boeing has had issues with their 787s with quality problems for years, built out of Charleston. The planes were pretty much deliveries were halted for the better part of 2 years through 2022 from pretty early in the pandemic. And Boeing has put in certain things like shims, and they've had other methods to kind of close those gaps. And this whistleblower is alleging that over time, that there it could be a risk to safety of flight. Boeing is denying these claims, calling them inaccurate. The FAA, is investigating them. They've already had an interview with this whistleblower who is going to be testifying in front of a Senate committee next week. And this is coming at a time, and this is why it's getting a lot of attention that maybe more than it normally would, is that Boeing is under an immense amount of scrutiny over the 737 MAX, a different plane. That's its bestseller after that door plug blew out of the Alaska Airlines plane earlier this year. Yeah. So there are a lot of questions about quality, but Boeing is so far saying that these claims are inaccurate.
There's also the business perspective, obviously, too, because Boeing today is also saying it delivered only about 29 airplanes last month, less than half of what they delivered in March of last year, right? I mean, it's clearly a slowdown.
Yeah, so Boeing is facing a whole bunch of quality issues, and to get a handle on that, essentially they're having to slow down their production lines, which is not what their big airline customers, Southwest, United Airlines, want to hear. Summer's coming up; they want those planes. Some of them have slowed down or paused hiring altogether, United putting pilots out on unpaid leave, if voluntary unpaid leave, I should say. And the FAA has said, Boeing, you cannot increase your production of the 737 MAX until we're satisfied. And we're going to hear more from Boeing later this month when they report on the 24th.
Lots of eyeballs on that. Leslie Josephs, thank you very much. New opportunity tonight for Amanda Knox. Remember her? For her to try to clear up her image once and for all in a new slander trial set to begin tomorrow in Italy. You'll remember this was a case that had people all over the world talking. The stunning story of a young American and her Italian boyfriend thought to have violently murdered Knox's 21-year-old roommate during what prosecutors said was a satanic sex game gone wrong. Even though an Italian court ultimately threw out Knox and her then-boyfriend's murder convictions, speculation still been out there. It hasn't necessarily stopped, which is why this new trial is such a big deal. Josh Letterman has more.
When you hear the name Amanda Knox, you probably recall the salacious details of the Italian murder case that became a years-long global tabloid extravaganza. The captivating headlines about a violent sex game gone wrong with Knox's then-boyfriend and 21-year-old British roommate. Her supposedly strange and lackadaisical behavior after the murder. The nickname, Foxy Knoxy, thrust upon her by the media that painted her as a sex-crazed, twisted seducer and swarmed over every twist and turn. For Amanda Knox, that's a problem. It's been more than 8 years since Italy's highest court overturned her murder conviction, essentially clearing her after she spent 4 years in prison. But most people don't remember that part as vividly.
I'm sure people will still hold it against me because they don't want to understand what happened, and they don't want to accept that an innocent person could be gaslit and coerced into what I went through.
Now Amanda Knox is facing another trial and hoping this one will clear her name for good.
Amanda Knox probably realizes that even if she's completely exonerated by all Italian courts, public perception of her, among many, will still be that she is a killer who got away.
The focus of this trial, slander. During the murder investigation, Knox had pointed the finger in a written statement at a Congolese bar owner who was jailed for 2 weeks but ultimately cleared. Prosecutors say that was slander. An earlier slander conviction against Knox was thrown out last year, but Italy's top court has ordered a new trial. Knox has said she wrote that statement under pressure after hour upon hour of interrogation.
Ordinarily in the States, giving investigators a lead into who you actually thought committed the crime is hardly slander. It's usually just helping the police.
This case, the latest layer of a true crime drama that's unfolded over the course of more than 16 years. Meredith Kircher was found dead in a pool of blood in the apartment she and Knox shared in November 2007. Another man from the Ivory Coast was convicted in 2008 and put in prison. But Knox and her boyfriend were tried separately and also convicted for Kircher's murder in 2009. Even after that conviction was thrown out in 2015, the publicity circus didn't stop. Knox became the subject of a series of documentaries, movies, and now a limited series on Hulu, produced by Knox herself. Knox is now 36, a mother of 2 young kids, and an advocate for criminal justice reform. On social media, Knox calling her new trial a good thing and a chance to prove her innocence once and for all.
Josh is joining us now. So on that note, Josh, we know that Knox isn't planning to be in court tomorrow, but she is going to testify at some point, right?
Yeah, that's right. So this all kicks off tomorrow in Florence, Hallie, and it's expected to be behind closed doors. And while her lawyer said that she's not expected in court tomorrow, Amanda Knox said on her podcast she does expect to testify during the course of this trial. And this entire case, Hallie, has one piece of evidence in it. The only evidence in this case is that 4-page statement that she gave while she says she was in the middle of some 53 hours of interrogation, obviously over multiple days. She says that was not the kind of conditions that she could be expected to be able to testify reliably. In fact, her previous conviction on these slander charges was objected to and thrown out after a European human rights court said that her human rights had been violated because she had been denied access to a lawyer and that kind of a thing. But Amanda Knox hoping that this is going to make the difference for her because she says that these slander allegations against her have been a key reason that many people in Italy and frankly even in the U.S., Hallie, doubt her innocence. Slander, unlike in the U.S. where it's a civil thing, you can sue somebody for money. In Italy, it is actually a criminal offense. But Amanda Knox hoping that she will be cleared of this allegation, and it will finally put this entire legal and publicity scandal behind her once and for all. Hallie?
Josh Letterman live for us with more on that, I'm sure, to come in the days ahead. Thanks, Josh. Coming up, a big update on a story we've been reporting for a year. The brand new felony charges in that shooting of a first-grade teacher by her 6-year-old student. Plus, some very scary scenes. A bus swept away in the middle of a flood. We'll show you the video on the Global. Coming up, what super popular chain is turning gold bars into a lot of cash in the 5 things? But first, to an NBC News exclusive now, finding the people who work at the polls when you go to vote, you know, the election workers who keep the logistical wheels on the tracks for our democracy, they're walking off the job at record rates. Partly, it's because of threats. Think about 2020 fallout, right? What we heard after January 6th, like when these election workers you see here, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, described the onslaught they faced, the fear they felt for their safety because of former President Trump's election fraud lies.
I don't want to go anywhere. I second guess everything that I do. It's affecting my life in a major way, in every way, all because of lies.
I've lost my name and I've lost my reputation. I've lost my sense of security.
But new data, first released to NBC News, shows the problem goes beyond just election threats, as elections offices all across the country try to put thousands of new officials in place ahead of this year's election in November. Our Jane Tim, who's out with this exclusive reporting today, is joining us now. Okay, Jane, so what is it, right? If it's not just the threats, what else is involved here that's creating these election workers to feel like they can't keep working?
Yeah, Hallie, we've been talking about what election denialism might do to election workers for years. And for the first time, we finally have data that tells us what's going on. And what we're seeing is that in larger jurisdictions, which you remember were definitely some of the biggest targets of President Donald Trump and his allies, places like Detroit and Atlanta and Phoenix, that those are the jurisdictions where you're starting to see enormous turnover. Between 2018 and 2022, 46% of large jurisdictions, and let's be clear, 80% of Americans live in what's large jurisdictions, had election official turnover. That's huge. These are the most complex elections they're running. But what we also learned in the data, and I think we have some numbers we can put on the screen, we see that election official turnover actually started before Donald Trump was a candidate, before he started talking about fraud. So there's some long-term systemic problems. You can see that it was rising gradually since 2004. There's definitely some issues that, including funding, staffing for election officials, that are at play here. This is not a one problem issue.
What about the elections workers coming in, right? I wonder what others are hearing from them, these folks who are now stepping into these important jobs, right? Often under the radar jobs ahead of this very critical election in November after everything that we've seen over the last few years related to threats and harassment.
Yeah, you know, this issue plays heavily election denialism on election officials who are leaving the job as well as coming in. I think we have some sound from an official who left in December 2020 and just said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Why don't we play that?
It does break my heart a little bit because there's some really super great people across this country who put their heart and soul into what they do. And for them to walk out means that there's this huge gap of knowledge that maybe the next folks coming in don't even have information from or know who to contact or how to build those programs to continue to make the office successful.
But the officials who are coming in, I've talked to a lot of them, including Debney's successor in Charleston, South Carolina, and they're excited and passionate to do this work. They see this as service, and they say, you know what, we're not going in with blind. We know how bad this can be. We know how hard this job can be. But they say, if not me, then who? And believe this is part of their democratic duty. So there's definitely some reason to be optimistic when you see some of these new, fresh blood that's coming into these jobs, even if it is going to be tough for them to pull off a 2024 election.
Jane Tim, thank you very much for that reporting. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a former assistant principal of Rich Neck Elementary School in Virginia has been indicted in connection with that shooting last year where a 6-year-old student shot a teacher. The former assistant principal is facing multiple counts of child abuse. Her lawyer did not immediately respond to requests for comment, but attorneys for the teacher who was shot says it shows how the school district, in their view, failed to prevent the shooting. Number 2, a judge ruling the Memphis Grizzlies star Ja Morant acted in self-defense when he allegedly punched a teenager at his home back in 2022. It's a story we've told you about. You'll remember the teenager sued with accusations of assault during a pickup basketball game. Morant said he was defending himself after an aggressive pass. Number 3, Costco's gold bars are now bringing in as much as $200 million a month, according to a new estimate from Wells Fargo. Remember, they're like 1-ounce bars, basically made of pure 24-karat gold. It comes as gold prices are hitting a record high. Number 4, what could beat the solar eclipse? Well, how about a baby born in Texas during the eclipse? Her family says she came a little early. They ran into some pre-eclipse traffic, rushed into the hospital, but they made it, and guess what her name is? Sol. That's Spanish for sun. Come on, that's amazing. Number 5. Also amazing, less amazing than the miracle of birth, but it is collaborative Scrabble. How about that? A Scrabble collab, Mattel. Launching Scrabble Together, a board game where there's like a second side of the board. You can have a partner, players work together, could be a little less competitive. Mattel says this is the biggest change they've ever made to Scrabble, but right now it's only available in Europe. Coming up here on the show, a lot more to get to, including the new way farmers in America's heartland are trying to help with the food crisis in Ukraine. Plus, cash now king in the UK. We'll explain. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Kenya, new video showing people clinging to ropes to get to safety after flooding swept their bus right downstream. A lot of people were stranded for hours on this floating bus. Look at that, while they were waiting for help. Fortunately, everybody got out safely. Record flooding across East Africa has killed dozens of people in the past 6 months. Out of the UK, the Bank of England presenting King Charles with new British pounds today, featuring his portrait. The first ever King Charles pounds will be available in June on the 5, 10, 20, and 50-pound bills alongside existing notes featuring the late Queen Elizabeth. The Bank of England says they're printing some of these new pounds to meet more of a demand for bills and to replace the ones that got worn out in circulation. And in Japan, these twin pandas go in their separate ways next week. That's Xiao Xiao and Lele. They've lived in the same room since they were born in 2021. But they're growing up, man. They're getting a little too big to stay together. The zoo worries they could end up hurt if they keep playing together. Visitors will get to see this dynamic duo together just until Sunday before they go off to live their separate but hopefully happy panda lives. Elsewhere around the world, new money that Ukraine desperately needs is on the line now. As Congress gets back from a 2-week recess, the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, says Ukraine will lose the war if they don't get this new funding. But Ukraine may need more than military support because the war is hitting its land hard, crushing its farming industry. And now Howard Buffett, farmer, philanthropist, son of billionaire Warren Buffett, is traveling the U.S. to try to get American farmers to support Ukraine. Here's Andrea Mitchell.
Yukon, Oklahoma, known for wheat fields and cattle ranches, is nearly 6,000 miles from the battlefields of Ukraine. But people in both places may have more in common than they think.
Why are you doing this? Why are you traveling across the country talking to farmers about Ukraine?
Well, I'm talking to more than just farmers. I'm trying to talk to anybody who will listen, to be honest with you. What happens in Ukraine is going to have a huge impact on what happens to this country.
Ukraine once a top grain exporter, before the war known as the breadbasket of Europe. But Vladimir Putin's invasion has decimated production. Fields now littered with landmines, tractors replaced by tanks, exports plummeting, farmers' livelihoods destroyed, and populations from Egypt to South Africa scrambling for grain. We joined Illinois farmer and agricultural philanthropist Howard Buffett on the third stop of a tour across the U.S., bringing the plight of Ukraine's farmers to the American heartland. In partnership with the German Marshall Fund, a pro-democracy think tank, Buffett has one goal: to convince farmers here to support farmers over there, unable to till their battle-ravaged fields under constant bombardment from Russia.
If Ukraine falls to Russia, there's no other logical conclusion other than NATO ends up fighting Russia. At some point, you're going to wake up one day and we're going to be in it. And we're going to be in it, and our kids are going to be fighting. Our grandkids are going to be fighting. Somebody's going to be fighting.
Here at the stockyards in Oklahoma, the farmers and ranchers we talk to sympathize with the farmers in Ukraine, but it feels far away.
I get in my tractor, I don't worry about a bomb going off when I go to plow my field. I worry about how much fuel's in the tank, you know, what station's on the radio and what the markets are doing. I don't have to worry about my life. And those farmers, sure enough, have to worry about their life and whether they're going to go home that night to their family.
Buffett brought together Oklahoma locals, cattle ranchers, wheat farmers, and poultry producers with different perspectives.
From a U.S. wheat producer standpoint, that their cheap grain is putting us at an extreme disadvantage.
I think it's a huge issue for the world to hold the line here and protect the Ukrainians. And I say you can support them for the ethical reasons, the moral reasons, or the selfish reasons. You get to the same place.
All of us get caught up in our day-to-day life of, you know, paying the bills and keeping the farm running and all that, and don't think about those big things that happen on a global scale.
Buffett told me that in the first 2 years of the war, his foundation has spent $500 million supporting Ukrainian farmers, providing 70 combines, 84 tractors, planters and drills, and new grain storage facilities to replace what the Russians bombed or confiscated. They also stopped by a Ukrainian Orthodox church in Jones, Oklahoma, a parish first built by immigrants fleeing Russian oppression in the 1920s. I spoke to Father Stepan about what's at stake for his homeland.
Is it difficult to explain that here in Oklahoma, where a war in Ukraine seems far away?
He says even though it is far away, people in their hearts know that this war is very serious.
What happens if Russia wins, if Vladimir Putin wins?
He says, I think God will not allow this to happen. I believe even the United States and the European Union won't let this happen. Born into wealth, the son of the legendary billionaire Warren Buffett, Howard Buffett could remain on the sidelines, but doesn't.
You could be living a very different life. Why do you do this?
My mom and dad gave me this opportunity. I would say it's an obligation, but it doesn't feel like an obligation. I mean, it's something that I love to do. I mean, it's a real privilege for me to be able to do it.
A son of privilege with roots on the American farm and a passion for helping farmers feed the hungry around the world.
Andrea is joining us now, fresh off that reporting trip to the Midwest. Just incredible to see some of these scenes from on the ground, Andrea.
And the devastation in Ukraine, is just so complete. 7 million acres are now lost to farming. And that grain used to go to Egypt, used to go to sub-Saharan Africa and all over Europe. Europe has managed to replace the grain. Africa has not. The poorer countries can't keep up.
What's also interesting is you heard him say in one of the pieces there, he said you could do it for the ethical reasons, the moral reasons, or the selfish reasons, which was kind of a funny way to think about it and applicable to more than just aid to farmers.
No, exactly. One of the selfish reasons is that he believes firmly, as the U.S. does, that Putin will not stop at Ukraine. If Ukraine goes under, he'll move on to other NATO countries who are much more vulnerable. And then we are in the war because we have to be. That's the NATO agreement. You know that better than anyone. So, either we keep our soldiers home and we don't have to fight this war, or we stop Putin now, help stop Putin now. And the other point is that most of the money comes back to the U.S., to our arms industries, to our defense industries. So it's helping jobs here in the U.S.
If you had to handicap it, Andrea, Ukraine funding, timeline, do we have any idea? Still a question mark.
It's now more complicated because of opposition to Israel's funding, which was part of that package. So who knows?
Andrea Mitchell, thank you so much for that great original piece of reporting for us tonight.
Thank you. It's exclusive to your show.
That's right. And more to come, of course, tomorrow on your show over on the other network, MSNBC. Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it. Coming up, more here on this show, including the surprising reason behind a new surge in syphilis. To tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight, it's the stunning surge in syphilis in this country. A sexually transmitted infection, once nearly eradicated, now back for reasons that might surprise you. Here's Yasmin Vasugian.
Right now, syphilis cases are surging in the United States at its highest level since the 1950s.
The people of America can eradicate the venereal diseases.
Rates of the sexually transmitted infection, once nearly eliminated in this country, skyrocketing for every age group, with experts pointing to a bunch of different reasons for this.
This is unfortunately a symptom of not investing in the American public health system in the way that we need it to be invested in.
One of them, substance abuse, that's on the rise and goes hand in hand with more risky sexual behavior. And another, maybe surprising one, the advent of PrEP, a highly effective drug for preventing HIV, introduced in 2012.
It's time to step up. Prep up.
That hundreds of thousands of men who have sex with men take. A national annual survey shows condoms went from the top contraceptive tool for 75% of men in 2011 to just 47% in 2022.
It appears that there is this sort of false confidence that, well, I'm not going to get HIV, therefore I'm no longer going to use condoms.
And this comes as we're also seeing a culture shift around sex, as younger people also don't remember the 1980s and 90s and the fear surrounding AIDS and HIV at the height of the AIDS crisis. And with so many health crises, this syphilis epidemic is affecting Black and Latino men disproportionately. The latest data from the CDC shows cases up nearly 5 times as much for Black men than white men.
Communities of color have always and still are disproportionately affected by almost every disease.
The same patterns exist with HIV as well. And making things even harder for communities of color, just 11% of Black people are on PrEP, 20% of Latinos, compared to 78% of white individuals. All told, suggesting prevention and treatment for HIV and syphilis are not reaching Black and Latino people as well as for white people. And if left untreated, STIs like syphilis can lead to long-term issues, chronic pain, infertility, and can even spread to other parts of the body, like your heart and your brain. But with the right antibiotics, syphilis is treatable. But we should note, there's a shortage of these medications, like penicillin right now, due at least in part to the rising cases of syphilis. And while cases are soaring, funding to fight it is not. Just last year, Congress cut $400 million in funds for disease intervention.
There are studies that show for every dollar we put into prevention, we save a lot of money on the healthcare system side.
With right now more questions than answers on how the syphilis epidemic will get under control.
Yasmin is joining us now. Like a lot of health crises, right? This is not just one thing, as you've laid out in your piece. It's like a whole bunch of different things that kind of come together. That can sometimes make a solution harder to tease out.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of the problem, right? It's this confluence of all these issues. You just heard $400 million in cuts, right? Lack of investments. Who is it affecting? Black and brown individuals mostly. That could be one of the reasons in which it's not being invested in. You talk about an increase in substance abuse. We have this use of PrEP, right? So people feel kind of immune to getting other diseases, and they're not necessarily practicing safe sex as much as they should. And then there's the culture, Hal, that I mentioned in my piece. Of sex right now, right? And they're not necessarily remembering the AIDS epidemic. So because of all this happening at once, it's hard to figure out why it's happening.
Yasmin Vasugian, an eye-opening piece there. Thank you very much for bringing that reporting to us. When we come back, the new numbers just into us now on the men's March Madness final. The UConn Huskies may be the top dogs in college basketball, but not in all of the sport. We're going to explain in just a sec. So in just the last 90 minutes or so, we're getting the new ratings that show just how popular women's basketball is in this country right now. Because for the first time ever, the women's final beat the men's final in TV viewership. Look at this, nearly 15 million for the men. That's a lot, but not quite as many as the women had, nearly 19 million. Interestingly, though, those big numbers don't lead to big dollars for the women. Look at this. The men's TV deal is worth $873 million. The women's, $6.5 million. Sam Brock is joining us now. What's so interesting, right? The money piece of it is not catching up to where people actually are right now when it comes to specifically college hoops and specifically the women here.
I think to preface this conversation, nothing I'm about to tell you, Hallie, is going to make sense because it doesn't make any sense because there's no proportionality, right? As you suggested, $900 million. If you were to tell me, okay, the expectation was the men's ratings would be higher, the women's would probably be in the ballpark of it, so 70% of the TV ratings maybe, or rights, I should say, 80% for the women. They're getting 1%. $6.5 million is a fraction of what the men are earning. In what universe is that fair? So the NCAA president, Charlie Baker, was asked about this recently. And in fact, last week, our Jesse Kirsch asked him specifically about this, and he said, there is no peak on the women's game. We are certainly trying to invest in it right now, but they make these deals ahead of time. So, okay, they have a brand new deal on the table that was just signed that's now $65 million a year for the women in TV rights. Guess what? That's 10x from where it was. Okay. But still less than 10% of what the men are making. It's not fair. If this spotlight on women's sports and specifically Caitlin Clark's rise to stardom and the explosion of interest in women's basketball has shown us anything, it's that things still are not on a level playing field.
And the question is, right, moving forward now, was Caitlin Clark and her amazing, strong women athletic colleagues, across the NCAA, was this lightning in a bottle this year, right? Or does this set a new floor for women's basketball moving forward? Because the star power is undeniable here for her. This year, on the men's side, it felt like that was less of a thing.
What makes a star? That is the big question. And, for Caitlin Clark, clearly she is. What makes Steph Curry Steph Curry? I think time will tell once she graduates whether or not this was a flash in the pan, if she was driving the numbers, or if the sport itself is immensely popular. Now, I will say there's a much better fighting chance for the women than the men because of the age at which a lot of the players are competing. For the women, they're getting to their junior or senior year, like Caitlin Clark, like Aaliyah Edwards, like Camila Cardoso. All the top players that are going to be drafted in the top 5, they're all generally seniors. On the men's side of things, we can flash the full screen on that. You'll see there's the women, right? Caitlin Clark, of course, going to go number 1. The projections are Cameron Brink, another senior, number 2. On the men's side of things, it's all international players that are 17, 18 years old because a lot of these guys have gone to play abroad. They do one and done. They're out after 1 year of college. The entire topography has changed of college basketball, and it's drained stars from the men's side. There's more on the women's side. We'll see if the momentum carries through, though, to 2024.
Let's
25.
be real. 25, like 24, like 23, the year of the woman. That's my prediction, Sam. Mark it, write it down.
I like that.
Well, roll the tape, babe. All right, Sam Brock, thank you so much. Fascinating conversation.
Alec.
Appreciate it. That's a wrap for this hour. More coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.